Okay, so if you are watching this video, then my guess is you're thinking about a Goldendoodle, and maybe you're researching various breeds or breed mixes, and you're wondering what's the care like for a Goldendoodle, and maybe you've heard a lot, and some of it you're sure is true, some of it might be true, and some of it may not be true at all. But I want to put to rest maybe some misconceptions about Goldendoodles. Here's the first misconception: that they are low maintenance, which they are not. Now here's the question: what kind of maintenance are they, right? Who wants a high maintenance dog? I would say they're normal maintenance. What do I mean by that? They are living things. They have high energy moments, they have mid energy moments, and they have long periods of lay on my back and just rub my belly, which is amazing and which is one of the reasons we love Goldendoodles. But the thing that you should understand is that Goldendoodles do have very specific maintenance requirements. So the more familiar you are with what a Goldendoodle needs to have a successful life in your family, the better you'll do. And what I want to do in this video is kind of go into some of the high points of the maintenance items for a Goldendoodle so that you can determine whether or not the Goldendoodle is the right breed for you. Okay, let's talk about how much attention a Goldendoodle needs. In the hierarchy of requiring attention, 10 being must have all of your attention all of the time, and 0 just plain doesn't like you, a Goldendoodle, where does it fall? Well, Goldendoodles are super social. So when they know who their people are, they definitely want to be with their people. So if you're the kind that doesn't want a dog in your space a lot, then a Goldendoodle may not be the best choice, right? It's not that they aren't independent. They can be very independent. But generally, they want to be with the people that they love. So if you're sitting on the couch, they're going to want to be next to you on the couch. If you're laying in bed, trust me, they're going to want to be laying in the bed next to you. If you're sitting on the floor, they'll be sitting in your lap. If you're sitting at the table, they'll probably be under your chair. And that's a good thing. That's a reason people get Goldendoodles. But you have to just decide, are you prepared to give that much attention to another living thing in your life? Now, personally, I think you get it all back because Goldendoodles love their people so much. But the real story is, sometimes, have you heard the term Velcro dog? Goldendoodles can be that way. They want to be with you. So that's the first thing. They want to be with you. Second, what will help your Goldendoodle, or any dog for that matter, but Goldendoodles in particular, is regular exercise. So you have to think about this. Some people think that, well, if I get a big dog, I've got to exercise it more. If I get a smaller dog, I'll have to exercise it less. And what I can tell you is nothing can be further from the truth. A dog is a dog, and dogs need exercise. Now, they don't have to be Olympic athletes. You don't have to put them on an agility course. It doesn't have to be anything super duper, but consistency is an absolute requirement, especially when a dog is young. If you've got kids, or you've seen kids, or you understand what kids are, imagine a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old kid has a ton of energy and wants to run around and wants to play with things and is curious and is touching everything and is kind of always sticky, right? Well, listen, if you bring home a puppy at 8 weeks, guess what? An 8-week-old puppy's like a 3-year-old, like a 4-year-old. They're like toddlers. They have lots of energy. They are super curious. They want to know everything about what you're doing. They have no idea what's right and wrong. They're looking to you. So you have to ask yourself, do I have the energy and the time and the ability to invest in this little living thing, because it's going to want to be with me. It needs to be stimulated. It needs to be exerted. So I think you get where I'm going with this. Now, you could make a case that with all breeds of dog, this is generally true. But what I can tell you is, with Doodles in particular, because of the mix of a Golden Retriever and a Poodle, Yes, you must be prepared to intellectually stimulate them, right? Teaching them commands, and just let them air it out. Let them physically exert themselves, especially when they're younger. In fact, what I would say is one of the mistakes that I see families make is underestimating how much time is required, especially at first, when a new puppy comes home. A Goldendoodle puppy is very energetic, is very curious, and wants to go everywhere with you. And one of the mistakes I see is people miscalculating how much energy and time they will personally have to invest up front in the Goldendoodle. Now, let me give you some good news with that. It's not like that forever. But in fairness to the dog, it's an infant, it's a toddler, it's then a young, it's like an adolescent and then a young adult. They will mellow as they grow and learn the rules. But as you, considering being an owner, learning the rules for the dog is very front-loaded for you. So if you know that, well, I'm going to bring the dog home, but this dog may be on its own for like 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day might not seem like a long time to you, but to an infant that has to pee like every other hour, it can seem like forever. Now, that's not to say that dogs should easily be able to be alone for 4 hours or 6 hours or 7 hours, right? But that takes time for them to get used to that, to get confident with that, to understand what the rules are for that. And all of that's on you, the potential owner. So you just have to consider, right? Am I ready for that? Am I ready to make that investment, especially up front? Let me give it to you in brass tacks, especially if you're a busy family. And our customers at Lakeshore Doodles, most of them are busy families, right? So you just have to get organized, right? If you've got kids and a job and a social schedule, and it's likely in your family everybody's going 100 different directions, and that's completely normal, and dogs get inserted into these situations all the time. It's just that you have to have a plan. Consistency is key. Always making sure that the dog gets mental and physical stimulation and engagement purposefully every single day. The dog and the routine for the dog has to be implemented or integrated with your overall family routine. And may I say, especially in the beginning, it has to become a priority. So where families do succeed is they understand that we've got a routine, but now we're adding this dog to the routine, which changes the overall routine. And when we prioritize the overall routine, we're prioritizing the dog because the dog is new. And then we get everybody on board with supporting the routine. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. And moms, I'm looking at you, moms. Everybody may want a dog, right? Everybody may be on board. Where I see families succeed is understanding that who in the family will ultimately be responsible for the dog. And usually it's one of the parents. And quite commonly, it's the mom. And I've got some friends playing behind me. The reason that this is important is, mom, you want to make sure that you've got a lot of support. And here's how support can break down. It can break down when not everybody understands or is supportive of the routine. So all this to say, the routine becomes key. You want full engagement from all family members. And one more pro tip. Many folks will come to me thinking, well, my kids are old enough for a dog now, and this will help them learn responsibility. And the answer is, yes, that may be true, and you may be right about that. The thing that I would caution you on is you want to make sure that if you're wanting the kids to take the lead on managing the dog, then it becomes incumbent on the kids having already demonstrated a past history of responsible behavior. If your kids aren't there yet because they're young or, kids are kids, then just remember that responsibility that needs to be taken on by one of the parents. So you want to really think this through. And again, as it relates to Goldendoodles specifically, yes, Goldendoodles will need this kind of attention. They will need this kind of routine. They will need this kind of intentional engagement and energy from their families. And if you are able to do it and prepared, you will have an amazing outcome. Trust me. Okay, let's talk about grooming. This is critical, and you really want to know the truth about this. Goldendoodles must be groomed. Their coats never stop growing. They never stop growing, and they don't shed for the most part, which means that a good groomer in your life is going to be essential. Now, people will often ask, well, how often, Jim, do we groom a Goldendoodle? Well, the answer is it really depends on how you want their coat to be. Do you like a big fluffy coat, or do you like a close-shaved coat, right? I can tell you most people like that teddy bear cut with, the long furnishings on the face, which means that realistically, you're grooming this dog every 4 to 5 weeks. And that's not all. Especially if you keep the fur longer, right? You will need to be brushing this dog. Mats can form very easily in the ears, in the chin, in the tail, in the hindquarters, in the feet and the legs. And if the mats get too big, then there's no combing them out. Your groomer will say, we've just got to shave them down. And then you get this dog that looks like Wile E. Coyote because it's just been shaved clean. So it's really critical to understand that you will have grooming every 4 to 5 weeks. And grooming is not cheap. Depending on where you live, you can easily pay $80 to $100 per groom. And, depending on where you live, groomers, it may be a drive. So all I'm saying is, when you take on a Goldendoodle, their coats do require maintenance. Groomings every 4 to 5 weeks, and then combing and brushing out on a regular basis. Not necessarily daily, but you will find yourself doing well if you're brushing your doodle out, 1 to 2 to 3 times a week. And it doesn't have to be super duper, but like if you've got a little boy dog, trust me, his undercarriage is going to get really matted. You're going to want to brush that out. If you are letting your dogs run around outside, you're going to want to brush their paws. The hair grows in between their little pads, right? And it can get pretty crusty down there. Their ears, if you have multiple dogs, and the way dogs play is they bite each other's ears, and you will see mats begin to grow on their ears, cleaning out under the ear flaps as well. So grooming a doodle is kind of a thing, and not all groomers are great with Goldendoodles in particular. So you may want to ask around somebody who maybe has a doodle that you like the way that it looks, to see A, do they have a groomer that they recommend? B, does that groomer have any room to take anybody else? And C, what are the costs? So that you can make an informed decision. But be prepared, if you do get a doodle, the grooming costs are real and important. Okay, let's talk about Goldendoodle temperament. What I can tell you is, just because I breed Goldendoodles, so I hear from people all the time. They'll talk about the Goldendoodles that they've met and their experiences with those dogs. And one of the common things I hear is, man, are Goldendoodles super high energy? Because that's what I seem to see. And the answer is, they can be. They certainly can be. What I can tell you is the temperament in a Goldendoodle can be a range from generally, mild to energetic to chill. And if the dog comes from a good environment where the breeder knew what they were doing, they ought to hand that dog off to you in what we consider an optimal socialization state. Optimal socialization state, which is a fancy way of saying this dog is ready to learn all its manners now. But with doodles in particular, okay, and all dogs in general, dogs' behavior is definitely a reflection of the skill level and commitment of their owners. So this is where you just have to be real with yourself. If you've never had a dog, it doesn't mean you can't have a dog. Just remember, you may have to employ more resources to manage and mold that dog's overall behavior profile. So that dog may come to you in a very chill state, right? When we work with people, especially if they're first-time dog owners, we're looking for a dog that's kind of mild, right? But a mild dog that goes into a situation where there aren't a lot of, say, boundaries, that dog can get crazy. And it's not the dog's fault, it's just the environment they live in. So where I'm going with you is, be realistic about what your skill level is. And if your skill level is low, and that's okay, then be smart about it. Make sure you're enrolled in a puppy class. Look into obedience training. This stuff will make your life with this dog amazing. And if there's one thing I can tell you about doodles, the truth is they are intelligent. They are a poodle and a golden retriever. The smartest dog with the happiest dog. This is why people love this breed. But temperament is real. Managing it is a critical piece. To manage well requires that you, the owner, educate yourself. And then, you don't give up. You don't give up. You use your resources. And trust me, this dog will shape up if the dog needs to shape up. Let me walk you through the homes that I see that really thrive with Goldendoodles. Homes that thrive with Goldendoodles understand the needs of the Goldendoodle, meaning these households are prepared to work the dog into their routines, meaning they're not just letting the dog fend for itself. They are engaged with the dog. They are interested in the training of the dog. There are multiple people helping, bear the responsibility of the dog. They are patient. Especially when you get dogs as a puppy, you just have to be patient. And they don't panic, right? Again, human children are a perfect example. Just because a human child has a bad day or a bad couple days doesn't mean the child is bad. It may just mean the child's having a bad couple of days. Or there's a new behavior that just needs to be corrected, and the quality of the correction will determine the outcome. Families that just get this, right, they do really well. They understand the Goldendoodle's a living thing. It's, this little being is just doing the best it can with what it understands. So those families do well. Families that don't do well are not great with schedules. There's no clear leader when it comes to the care of the Goldendoodle. I said earlier in the video, really somebody needs to raise their hand and say, I am ultimately responsible for the care and feeding of this dog. I can manage it. I can delegate out the various things, but I am ultimately in charge. When no one's in charge, what happens is the doodle says, well, I guess I'm in charge. I got it. I'm in charge. And that goes badly usually. And those families tend to struggle. I think the other place that I see families struggle with a Goldendoodle, especially a Goldendoodle puppy, families that have kids and younger kids, when the kids are not clear on the expectations that the parents have for this puppy. Expectations with your children as they pertain to the dog are really important. How are the kids allowed to play with the dog? What's allowed, what's not allowed, right? Sometimes puppies, the kids will play with puppies too long. And if a puppy is constantly whipped up into a frenzy, well, that becomes their normal baseline. And over time, that's no good. So the families that are successful are clear with their expectations with their kids. The kids are clear on what types of play are acceptable and what kinds of play are not acceptable. And the parents are checking in. Again, if you have kids, seen kids, know kids, theoretically understand conceptually what a child is, they don't raise themselves. They do better when there's an environment of expectations that are enforced gently and with joy and checked up on. You follow me there? That's kind of critical. All right, so if you're still watching this video, I can tell that you're committed. Here's something: successful people who, when it comes to a Goldendoodle, right? Goldendoodles will live, 15 years, right? 10 to 15 years, and sometimes longer. So you're on the precipice of making a big commitment. If your children are 7 and 8 years old right now, that Goldendoodle may be at their high school graduation party, or at their wedding, or at your retirement party, right? So doing a real gut check at this moment, I think, is really smart. So you just want to consider, are you ready for a 15-year commitment? Remember, if you go travel someplace, either the dog comes with you or you've got to board the dog, right? These are all the decisions that you have to make when you have a long-term commitment to a living thing. And it's not even just a living thing, of course. It's a family member. The other thing to consider is we talk a lot about, puppies, the early stages of a dog's life. And they are, those needs they're considerable. But the needs will change, right? A well-trained dog, the need to manage that dog obviously, flattens out and even diminishes over time. But as the dog ages, as the dog heads into old age, remember this: that dog will require care, just like an aging parent, right? And the other piece of this, of course, is it's likely you will have a deep emotional attachment to the dog, which is what makes life great, may I say. But just remember that saying goodbye is a part of this process. You aren't focusing on that now, but you do at least reasonably do a little check in your mind. Are you prepared for that when that dog is in old age and the requirements of old age? There will be medical bills, probably. There may be medicines. There may be special therapies or exercises for that dog. And while that may be off in the future, it's wise to at least consider it at this stage. Here's what I would recommend. If you're still watching, God bless you if you are, reach out to a known breeder. It would be good to have a conversation at this point. If you're serious, if you're trying to kind of vector in on, is this the right breed for me, and what's the timing, and what's the mix, and what's the size, and what are all the differences and all the questions you may have, you can certainly reach out to us. The number's on the website. But any licensed breeder or good recommendation that you get, a good breeder will talk you through all of it, right? And should have answers to all of your questions. Feel free to look around the website here. We've tried to put as much of that information at your fingertips as possible. But as I say, again, certainly feel free to reach out.